Movement Labs secretly promised advisors millions in tokens, leaked documents show. Signed memos reveal that Movement Labs, a Trump-backed crypto startup, offered up to 10% of its token supply to shadow advisors through undisclosed agreements. Movement Labs, the scandal-plagued crypto startup backed by Donald Trump's World Liberty Financial, quietly promised large stakes of its token to early insiders. Undisclosed deals that now raise fresh questions about who really holds power behind the scenes. Even before its token launch, Movement Labs committed large portions of Move's supply to a handful of early advisors. Arrangements that were never disclosed to investors and only surfaced through internal documents reviewed by CoinDesk. 2 business memos obtained by CoinDesk, one promising a single advisor nearly $2 million a year, show how Movement, founded in 2023 by 2 20-year-old Vanderbilt dropouts, leaned heavily on these advisors to gain a foothold in the crypto industry. Movement Labs said the agreements, dated shortly after the project's founding, were exploratory in nature and non-binding. The existence of the agreements nonetheless casts new light on the chaotic inner workings of Movement, which came under fire after CoinDesk reported last month that insider market-making deals enabled token dumping by insiders. The fallout has sparked waves of finger-pointing inside the company, centering on who steered Movement into a predatory agreement with a Chinese market maker under terms that analysts say incentivized predatory selling. The tension has boiled over into a public rift between co-founders Rushi Manch, who was terminated by Movement Labs this month, and Cooper Scanlon, who stepped back from his CEO role but remains at the company. When we started Movement, I was the CTO, leading the engineering team. I left most business decisions, including the contracts, to Cooper, Manch told CoinDesk when reached for comment. When priorities changed, our roles changed, but Cooper's decisions in the early days heavily shaped the way the launch went. CoinDesk spoke to more than a dozen people familiar with Movement over the course of its investigation, including current and former employees who were granted anonymity so they could speak freely. The agreements obtained by CoinDesk concerned Sam Thapalia and Vineet Parekh, both of whom played behind-the-scenes roles in shaping the project during its early stages. Together, they were allocated access to as much as 10% of the total Move token supply in signed memoranda of understanding that insiders say were intentionally kept off the books. Thapalia, the CEO of Zebek Protocol and an early advisor to Manch and Scanlon, was loaned 5% of Move's supply for marketing and market-making purposes, according to one of the agreements obtained by CoinDesk. A second agreement allocated Thapalia 2.5% of the token's total supply, worth more than $50 million at recent prices. Movement Labs told CoinDesk the signed agreements with Thapalia were not binding, but Thapalia claimed the agreements were never voided. While framed as memoranda of understanding, normally considered non-binding, the agreements examined by CoinDesk also include provisions stating both parties must consent to their termination. I plan on pursuing legally to exercise my claim to retrieve 2.5% of tokens, Thapalia said. Employees at Movement referred to Thapalia as a shadow co-founder, and said he was often consulted by Scanlon and Manch for major decisions. His name also surfaced in internal communications regarding Movement's deal with Web3 Port. The Chinese market maker was later blamed for dumping $38 million in tokens after Move's debut, an event that triggered a sell-off and Binance account bans. The amount loaned to Web3 Port, 5% of Move's supply, was identical to the amount loaned to Thapalia per the agreement. When contacted by CoinDesk in advance of the initial investigation, Thapalia denied having any financial interest in Movement Labs or the Movement Foundation. He also denied involvement in the Web3 Port deal. In later messages on Signal, Thapalia told CoinDesk that his work with Movement was consistent with their agreement. As per the contract signed in February 2023, I fulfilled the agreed terms by supporting Cooper Scanlon in exchange-related discussions, strategizing token allocation, assisting with market maker selection, and helping hire the team that audited his airdrop model. The use of informal agreements to quietly allocate tokens to insiders reflects a broader pattern within the crypto industry, where large sums can change hands without appearing in official fundraising disclosures. In 2024, CoinDesk reported that Eclipse, another project linked to Thapalia, secretly allocated 5% of its token supply to an employee at Polychain, a major crypto venture firm that later invested in the project. Polychain is also an investor in Movement Labs. Eclipse's deal with the Polychain employee was scrapped following the publication of CoinDesk's investigation. What these cases illustrate is not necessarily fraud, but the ease with which crypto startups can make significant financial commitments behind closed doors, commitments that can later shape the trajectory of an entire token ecosystem, often without the community or even some employees ever knowing. One person familiar with the matter said Movement's agreements were tailored to explicitly avoid disclosures to investors or community members. In another 2023 agreement obtained by CoinDesk, Movement Labs agrees to give an entity linked to Vineet Parekh, Digital Incubation Group, $50,000 annually for every $1 million raised by Movement Labs, a sum that would total approximately $2 million per year, based on Movement's $38 million in funding. Another agreement granted a separate Parekh entity control of 2.5% of the Move token supply. In exchange for his allocation, Parekh's firm, Digital Incubation Group, was tasked with a broad mandate, including development of strategy framework, validated by relevant stakeholders, consultation through the pre-seed raise process, including advice and connection to investors, close seed raise, development of tokenomics and release plan, engage in structuring team pre-product launch. Like Thapalia's agreements, Parekh's were structured as memoranda of understanding with a termination clause requiring consent from both parties. Parekh and Movement Labs both said the agreements were exploratory and that funds never changed hands between either party. Two people close to Movement Labs said that Parekh, a Microsoft product manager turned blockchain industry consultant, was nonetheless a frequent presence at Movement's San Francisco office and played a role in the company's hiring, marketing, and strategy decisions. "I just care about the ecosystem," Parekh told CoinDesk in an interview. "No money was given to me or to anyone I know. In connection to the agreements, I did help them on the marketing strategy and understanding how to do go-to-market." The fallout from Movement's market-making scandal has exposed a widening rift between its co-founders, Monch and Scanlan. After an excerpt from one of the Thapalia agreements leaked on X, Monch pointed to Scanlan's signature on the memo, highlighting his former partner's role in approving the deal. He also reposted a message questioning whether Movement Labs was throwing Monch under the bus, while Scanlan played innocent. Monch was ousted from Movement Labs earlier this month, shortly after CoinDesk reported he had helped coordinate the project's controversial market-making agreement with Web3 Port and an intermediary known as Rentech, a third party that Movement later claimed misrepresented itself in the deal. CoinDesk has since learned that Monch also played a role in facilitating a separate arrangement between Web3 Port and Kaido, another crypto project that shares the same director and general counsel as Movement Foundation. A contract reviewed by CoinDesk shows that Open Kaido Foundation loaned 2.5% of its Kaido token supply to Whisper, an entity linked to Web3 Port. The agreement, which was also leaked on X by an anonymous account, was terminated shortly after it was signed, according to an X post from Kaido founder Yuhu. Unlike the Movement deal, it did not include terms that experts said incentivized pump-and-dump behavior. A person familiar with the matter said Monch introduced Kaido to Rentech, which then connected the project to Web3 Port. The controversy has already dented Movement's reputation in an industry that once saw the startup as a rising star. Coinbase, the largest U.S. crypto exchange, announced it would suspend trading of the Move token on May 15th. The token's price fell by 50% in the following week. On May 7th, Movement Labs said it would spin out a new entity, Move Industries, to serve as the network's primary developer. Scanlan remains with the organization but has stepped down as CEO. Sam is CoinDesk's deputy managing editor for tech and protocols. His reporting is focused on decentralized technology, infrastructure, and governance. Sam holds a computer science degree from Harvard University, where he led the Harvard Political Review. He has a background in the technology industry and owns some ETH and BTC. Sam was part of the team that won a 2023 Gerald Loeb Award for CoinDesk's coverage of Sam Bankman-Fried and the FTX collapse.